Mental. Adjective. Relating to the mind. Relating to disorders of the mind. Flog. Verb. Beat someone with a whip or a stick as punishment or torture. Mental flog. That shit we put ourselves through day after day when we're dealing with things we haven't quite dealt with yet. Mental Flog is a podcast where we come to learn how to live better and quit beating ourselves quite so much. Thank you for joining us, and we are ready to put on a show for you.
Welcome back. All right, I guess I'm kicking off this one. Okay.
Yeah, this is all you, bro.
All right, cool. Okay, well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Mental Flog. So this is our fourth episode of Season 2, the Season of the Fool. So this episode is abuse and narcissism versus, well, TikTok told me that you're toxic. So I'm here with your friendly neighborhood Bishop. So, Bishop, what's new with you?
I have a new love in my life, Jeff.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
I purchased.
I can already tell that there's a twist here. So lay it on us.
I purchased a 1989 Ford Crown Victoria.
Oh, nice! It's like an old cop car.
Yeah, this is the civilian version, but it was purchased originally in '89 at Ogden Ford. And there is a picture of the lovely Asian couple that purchased it in '89 still in the owner's manual the day they bought it in front of Ogden Ford.
Nice. So how's it running stuff?
I had to do a water pump on it and some rubber hoses because it's old. And the water pump was a 2-weekend saga, but AC blows cold, cruise control works, power door locks work,
Sweet.
Power windows work. I have been dailying that thing.
Well, getting into a newer, more reliable vehicle is definitely on my list. But just
see, the more I learn about newer vehicles, the less I desire to own a newer one.
Yeah, but I guess it doesn't have to be like a newer one. But I think after doing my research, the vehicle that I've landed on is like I was into the Rivian for a little while until I actually did a lot more research and learned a lot more about electric vehicles. And after going on a trip to Vancouver, British Columbia, and renting a vehicle, and it was a hybrid. So it was a plug-in hybrid, and seeing how poorly the electric part of those vehicles works and how poorly electric vehicles work for long distances. I want something that can be like a good, like rough and tumble, go anywhere vehicle. So after doing all my homework, I've landed on if I can find an old 4Runner, that would be the vehicle for Jeff.
What brand of plug-in hybrid were you driving?
It was a Chrysler Pacifica.
So. Yeah. If you want a hybrid, you want a Toyota or you want a Honda. Yeah, everybody has their own take on it, but those are the ones that do it right.
Yeah, which I mean, ultimately, like we wound up with it was a free upgrade. We were supposed to just get like the cheapest like SUV that they had. And they're like, well, we can upgrade you for free to a minivan. We're like, well, we got like 3 of us and a little one that are all going to be in the vehicle making the trip. So minivan sounds like it'd be more comfortable. So, but yeah, reading all the reviews and stuff, it's kind of a wonder that the vehicle didn't just stall out on us and die entirely with apparently as reliable as those Chrysler Pacificas are. But actually, it was a fairly comfortable vehicle. It was just the electric part was not good for anything for that kind of a trip.
Oh yeah, Pacifica is a very comfortable and well-equipped ride. Just I wouldn't say hybrid would be the way to go with one of those.
Oh yeah.
So Jeff, your beard is much shorter.
Yeah, that's because I've got a 9-month-old with a kung fu grip, and yeah, he kind of got a hold of it by the roots one day and was kind of Tarzan swinging through the thing, and there was nothing that I could do to get him to let go except for just scream in pain, which he thought was hilarious. So
Yes, I
yeah,
remember.
the decision was made to go shorter, but after it was done, the fiance looked at it and she's like, "Well, it'll grow back eventually, right?" So I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess it's kind of cutting it off is kind of cut off a little bit of my personality. So we'll let it grow back, and I'll just deal with a child with a kung fu death grip that likes to Tarzan swing through the beard.
I mean, it does come back. I completely shaved mine off in September of last year.
So
I mean,
that's some pretty impressive growth for
yeah.
September.
Well, just quick reminder for everybody, if you do have a question, text us or leave a voicemail. The phone number is 801-810-7502. If you have anxiety and you're worried Jeff and I are going to pick up the phone, fear not. It goes directly to voicemail, so you won't have to interact with us directly. Well, my friend, I am pretty sure you have a card for us this evening, don't you?
That I do. So we'll see if you can actually see this card or not. But I pulled this from my Light Healers Tarot deck, but the card that I pulled today is okay. No, get that in front of the. Okay, yeah, you can see it's the Page of Pentacles
Page of
reversed.
Pentacles, and it's reversed. Yeah.
So in the reversed position, typically, when you think Pentacles, they're usually have to do with finances, but the Pentacles also has to do with your health. So that's not just going to be your physical health, but also your mental health. And Page of Pentacles reversed, that means that represents an individual who is very much in like the beginning stages of having to come to terms with the fact that they've completely lost focus, they've completely lost themselves, and everything is just kind of belly up and upside down, and they have no drive, no motivation, or no will to really be able to make a difference. So, and of course, as G.I. Joe said, knowing is half the battle. So this is the stage in which coming to awareness with the fact that you're at this stage where you've just kind of given up and you're just kind of going through the motions, and it's time to do something, do gooder.
That describes how I felt when I was in some unhealthy relationships, before, for sure. Well, my friend.
Oh, shizzle.
Should we kick off with a little bit of talking points from the internet?
All right, cool. So, Kim, according to the CDC.
Oh, hold on, buddy.
Like, okay, all right. Oh, okay. Sorry, you've got something here. Sorry.
Oh yes. This is from the Angry Therapist. Your body thinks it's dying. Let me explain. When you're in a relationship, even if the relationship is dysfunctional, I can't English today. Even if the relationship is dysfunctional, toxic, and unhealthy, there can be a feeling of safety. The relationship itself may not be safe, but having a place in this world where someone's name and number to put down in case of an emergency. I do love me some John Kim, Angry Therapist, and I can read this and think to myself that I am guilty of living in that world before. How about you?
Been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt, lost the T-shirt in the divorce.
Someone once said, water has no effect on fake flowers, and that changed my entire mindset regarding relationships. What's your hot take on this one, brother?
No, like I feel that, and I think we'll kind of go into that a little bit as I kind of go through my spiel today, and the whole like, well, what is actually like narcissism versus this whole trend of TikTok of just, well, everybody's a narcissist, everybody's toxic, and You ate my leftovers from Cafe Rio, so you're a narcissist.
Yeah, there is a lot of toxicity out there in the world, isn't there?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody's got toxic tendencies, but I mean, there's a difference between having toxic tendencies, which everybody has, and like true like narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, which requires an actual like diagnosis. But seems like everybody out there is like an armchair psychologist and likes to diagnose whoever it is that they don't like with that. So, but
Very much so. This one hit home for me because it really clicked because I've experienced this, but the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. And I deem this to be 100% true. The stuff that we don't want to do that seems like it's going to be so much work and we put off and we put off and we put off is the most important shit.
I'm feeling personally victimized by this statement. I would like to seek financial compensation.
Trying to understand the behavior of some people is like trying to smell the color 9. This one is just a little bit small.
Can we blow that up a little bit bigger for everybody? Okay.
Narcissists don't want love. They want attention. If they can't get positive attention, they will take negative attention. And if they can't have your admiration, they will accept your rage. But they must provoke some response from you. That is their goal, to provoke a response, any response. It solidifies in their minds their power over you, that they are calling the shots, that you are weak, or gullible, or easily manipulated, or vulnerable, or whatever they have labeled you in their mind, that means you are less than them.
Yep.
And we'll definitely be talking about this a little more in depth later. That one's small too.
But what's with all these like tiny little thumbnails here?
Narcs can't have an adult discussion about an issue, so when you try to see it as they try to see it as you starting an argument. I have also lived this in a relationship before. I just didn't really fully recognize what it was back then. The narcissist never apologizes. They do say sorry, but it's not a sincere apology, and it's usually followed by a blame-shifting statement. I'm sorry, but if you don't do that, then I wouldn't have done that, or done what I did. So an apology from one of them is not an apology. It is a gesture to shift the blame back to you.
Yep. That just briefly, that kind of reminds me of, like, won't say who it was, but we'll just say that back in the day, we kind of had our little group, and had somebody in the group that one of our best friends, he just one day kind of started talking to us and said, like, okay, I don't want to come to any events or any social gatherings if they are there. And we're like, okay, well, what seems to be like the issue? Kind of noticed a little bit of tension there, but like, well, what's going on? And he's like, well, it's like I've noticed something about them that I don't like, and it's something that I'm not willing to accept into my life, and it's not something that I'm willing to deal with. And the best way that I can describe it is that this is the kind of person that the only kind of apology that you would ever get out of them is, well, I'm sorry you got offended.
No, that is a healthy boundary to be able to set for yourself when you recognize something that doesn't belong with you. To just say, hey, I'm not accepting this, that's powerful.
Yeah. So got to hand it to them, but it would be years and years later that I would finally realize the gravity of that statement and kind of exactly what it was that they were implying. But kudos to them for being able to see that and call that out and set that boundary.
I love this one because it has a lot of truth to it. It's another John Kim, the Angry Therapist quote. We all have issues because we all have a story. And no matter how much you work or how much work you've done on yourself, we all snap back sometimes. So be easy on you. Growth is a dance, not a light switch.
Yep.
Sometimes it takes a heartbreak to shake us awake and help us see we are worth so much more than we're settling for. One more. Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born. Nicholas Tesla. I mean, my alone time during my process of healing and figuring myself out was how I got this way. Not the really messed up, jacked up party, but the actually good healthy part.
Yes, yeah, it's easy enough for Nikola Tesla to say, for crazy genius who just hates people in general and just wants the whole world to leave him alone.
All right, brother. Well, you got some wise words for us this evening?
Okay, well, so here we go. Just kind of briefly about abuse statistics and things like that. So according to the CDC, 1 in 3, both men and women, will experience either dating or intimate partner violence. So this is either going to be it by direct physical violence or sexual assault. Well, oftentimes it's harder to identify. Nearly half of all men and women report to have been victims of psychological aggression, or AKA emotional abuse, in an intimate relationship. So, we hear these buzzwords all the time: gaslighting, love bombing, and everyone has that one ex that's a narcissist. So, but I mean, well, sadly, so many are going to experience this abuse in their relationship. There's a meme that I think it's relevant that we share regarding what we see quite a bit these days. So, for those of you that aren't watching this on YouTube, the meme is that dog Doge, whatever, that Shiba Inu meme, and it's wearing a stereotypical pink anime wig, and it states, "Well, my boyfriend won't let me hang out alone at my ex-boyfriend's apartment or use Tinder to make friends. I don't know how much more of this toxic relationship I can take." So, sorry, Ashley, but Brad isn't a narcissist because he ate your leftovers. I don't care what Crystal Lesbian Witch 420 told you on TikTok. So,
is that an actual username? Did you look this up?
No, that was just something I pulled out of my ass. No, but I think in many cases it's just easy to slap a label on someone and categorize any of the connotations that might come with that as the end all be all to the problems that they had with that relationship or why the relationship failed. So, but in the end, you end up with a situation where there's another meme that I'll share here. It's you have the multiverse Spider-Mans. They're all pointing at each other, and it's like, no, you're the narcissist. No, you're the narcissist. Well, you're a gaslighter. Well, I'm not a gaslighter. You're the abusive one. So, but as the philosopher Kierkegaard once said, and as Wayne in Wayne's World 2 quoted Kierkegaard as saying, it's like, once you label me, you negate me. So, and then as your friend of mine, Gary John Bishop, said on his podcast, these labels tell us nothing. So tell me what they actually did, and we can actually assess from there. But you can't just slap a label on somebody and call that good, because that just completely negates them. It's just, well, they're just this, and that doesn't tell us anything. So, what do you think, Sir Bishop?
A lot of this really hits home for me on my experiences. I think, however, Gary John Bishop really nails it home on this point. We live in a society that we're saying an ex is a narcissist or like to gaslight you. It's an epidemic. Much like the boy who cried wolf, it's hard to sort fact from fiction. In my time in the dating pool, I can't tell you how many people had a story about a narcissistic ex or being gaslit. Now, was it true? Was it valid? In some cases, it would seem to be. But at the end of the day, one of the biggest tools in filtering out the BS is time and listening. Everyone will eventually tell you exactly who they are. All you really need to do is pay attention.
Yep. So, and as we said earlier, it's the statistics speak for themselves. There, it's everybody has a narcissist ex, but AF 1 and 2 will actually experience that kind of emotional abuse, and about 50% of them are actually hitting the nail on the head. And I think the dialogue is important, and I'll give social media credit for spreading the awareness, because I guess, sharing a bit of my own story here. So before about 2017, I may have heard the term
dark
narcissist.
times.
Yeah, the dark times. But I may have heard the term narcissist used before, but I never understood like all of the implications that came with it. So, and also, not having any awareness to what constituted as emotional abuse, I got to take responsibility for any damage that I did, and honestly, my lack of emotional intelligence at the time. So, I was thinking, so long as I wasn't physical or wasn't doing anything to insult or degrade my partner, then that was meeting all of the checkbox required to not be participating in any kind of abusive tendencies. So, I got to take responsibility and accountability for any damage that I might have done in my ignorance to that. So, but yeah, imagine my shock when, my world was crashing around me. So it was the first time seeing my ex-wife and my ex-partner. So it's polyamory, mind you, that all that shenanigans. This was all above the board. So it was during visiting hours when I had my sticky sock vacation. So the very first thing that my ex-partner says to me was, "Well, I'm disappointed that you're still alive and sucking air." So, and then the very first thing that my ex-wife said to me was, "Well, I've been talking to our counselor, and they think that you're emotionally abusive." So I guess later she would admit that she waited to drop this on me until I was in that environment because she knew I would internalize and knew that I was already on suicide watch and that it's not like I could do anything self-destructive in trying to process that accusation. So I guess internalize it I did. So went through, I replayed every disagreement, every harsh word that had ever been said in that past 13 years, every lie or half-truth, trying to figure out where I had gone wrong, not just in my marriage, but the two other relationships that I was trying to juggle and all that polyamory bullshit. So, and then I guess when I would try to talk to my ex-partner, she would just scream at me until I would break down. Like she would force me to say, "I'm a liar, I am an abuser." So, and things got to a point where the fellow residents that I was there with, they were telling me that I didn't, they're like, "Jeff, you don't have to tolerate this, what's happening to me. Like I'll fight them for you. Like I'm, like your ex-partner in particular, the stuff that she says, like, if I hear her talk to you like that again, I won't hesitate to jump over the table." And I was just like, no. It's like I did the crime. I have to I need to show penance because apparently I'm an emotional abuser. So, but when you're in that kind of an inpatient facility, there's a lot of focus on what's going on with you. And there was one psychiatrist there that he stated within a 5-minute conversation that he's like, "Well, I think you have borderline personality disorder." But then for the rest of the session, only wanted to talk about my weight. So he added metformin to the cocktail of other drugs that he put me on. So now I'm a liar, I'm an emotional abuser, and apparently I have borderline personality disorder. But the most important part was that I needed to watch what I was eating during treatment because he wanted to make sure that I didn't gain any more weight.
He had some priorities.
Yep, priorities. But part of when you get released, they want to, they expect that they're going to set you up with a therapist to continue working with. So, and then they tell you, "Hey, this is where the real work is going to be when you try to rejoin the rest of society." So, treatment isn't just about what's going on with you internally, but it's about what's happening externally and how to better cope with that. You're trying to rejoin the real world. That's, you're kind of safe, you're isolated, you're kind of coddled in here, but going back out into the real world, that's when it's, well, okay, kick you out of the nest. Here you go, fly. So I was seeing a therapist for a while, and after a while, I was shocked to hear a new verdict. First, he said that there was absolutely nothing to justify borderline personality disorder diagnosis, but he said there were some other things that he had caught on to. So he handed me some paperwork, and he said, "Well," says, "there are 8 signs that someone has been the victim of narcissistic manipulation and abuse. If someone shows 5 of those signs, then that's when I would say someone has definitely experienced narcissistic abuse. He said I showed all 8. So
it's the wrong kind of home run to hit there, buddy.
Yep, but with that, the new diagnosis that he gave me, that's a diagnosis that's stuck with 2 other therapists that I've worked with since then, and I think my diagnosis to this day is actually just major depression disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and PTSD. And at the time, he also said that he diagnosed me as being codependent, and that I got caught in part of that dance between a narcissist and a codependent. So, and then he wasn't the first to give me this warning, but he was the first to give me this warning, but not the last to give me this warning. Firm warning was issued. It says, well, he's not authorized to give a diagnosis to anyone else, but if his suspicions were correct about the narcissist in my life, that there would never be any peace. There would never be any compromise. That a true component with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder is that they are not capable of ever changing. And my only saving grace, the only peace I would ever find, would be to go absolutely no contact with that person. So I guess just for clarification, I'm not saying that it was the ex-wife that was the narcissist, in case there's any confusion there. I think both her and I did have codependent tendencies, though, that kind of led to unhealthy dynamics when, especially when that relationship was opened. And it was just, say, like, if kind of using some nerdy astrological terms here, it's like if the 2 of us were 2 circling dwarf planets in the universe, then, well, I was pretty easy prey to get sucked into the orbit of a gas giant planet of a narcissist till their gravity eventually tore me apart. So I guess, was I emotionally abusive? Was I a liar? Or was I just the victim of narcissistic abuse? I think the honest answer would be kind of a little bit of all 3. And I think we'll kind of dissect that more as we go into this episode, because I'm not here saying like, hey, I'm perfect, I didn't make mistakes or anything. And I ultimately have to take accountability for the dumb shit that I did and the places where I went wrong. So a little bit of a tangled mess, but ultimately it is a little bit of all 3. But there was that new component that was added where previously this was all my fault and I was internalizing all of it.
No, I've definitely internalized some stuff like that too, and it is a bad trip, my friend. I remember you talking about this in your tower episode on last season, and I really do love how the therapist was really clear that they could not diagnose someone not in their care. I think if you go into therapy with an ulterior motive, trying to get somebody else diagnosed, you are part of the problem. Growth and change is a part of life, and if you live the same shit, different day life, you'll always be in the same shit no matter what. Furthermore, if you don't look back on parts of your past and cringe, have you actually grown? I know when I look back, there are periods of time and actions that today's version of Bishop would full on call me out for with no remorse. Like, gloves are off, I would get a beat down for some of the shit that I pulled in my past, and rightfully so. The version of you and the version of me that exists today are not how we've always been. It's taken a lot of work and therapy and reading and processing and learning to get to be who we are today.
Yep, full shizzle. But as that one meme you posted earlier says, it's like growth is it's not a linear thing. So
yeah, it's a dance. It's not a light switch.
Yeah, it's a dance, not a light switch.
There's going to be things that will trigger your old behaviors because it's a process to get out of those. So there's going to be bad days. There's going to be good days.
Yeah,
I think the key is to recognize it, but not to beat yourself up over it. Like, you don't need to give yourself an excuse. Okay, this happened. Understand it, accept it, move on, and be better.
Yep, but when we talk about triggers and schemas, schema therapy, or actually they don't in therapy now they're trying to push, they don't like to use the word triggers anymore. It's activators. is the term that they're trying to use now, but that could be an entire episode or pretty much an entire series by itself. It's just but I mean, that is, part of the therapy process there is like learning what your triggers or your activators are. Because once again, knowing is half the battle, but it's, what is a trigger? What is a schema? It's basically you have this trauma that you've experienced and your brain has developed like a set of pre-programming that your brain just automatically kind of goes into. It's essentially going real super nerdy. It's like the switch has been hit. Your prefrontal cortex is no longer in control. Now the amygdala, which controls, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn process, is in control. And so when all said and done, you're looking back like, well, why did I do that? Because that reaction does not help me at all. So once you learn what those activators are and what your action tends to be during that process, then you can work to try to improve it. But that's that. And that's the long and short of it. But definitely like something that could be its entire thing altogether. So, but I think if we're dissecting things further, we should definitely differentiate between deliberate abuse versus toxic tendencies. So, let me clarify. I don't think anybody deserves any kind of abuse, but especially if it's deliberate and malicious. Though even if it's not deliberate, the end result of toxic tendencies we may not always be aware of. But ultimately, if someone says you've hurt them, your real test of character is how you respond, and if accountability can be taken and efforts made to correct that misdeed. So, I mean, it's a sad fact of life. You live long enough, you're going to do something somewhere along the way that's going to hurt someone. But when you know better, you do better. So I guess, if you're listening to this or watching this and you're asking yourself, well, could I possibly be a narcissist? Well, I think the answer is going to be that, well, you might have some narcissistic tendencies. You do not have narcissistic personality disorder, because a true narcissist never sits there and asks, hey, am I a narcissist or not? Because everyone else are the narcissists.
I have some PTSD on that thought process. I've been accused by 2 ex-people in my life of being a narcissist. One of them even had their mother's best friend silently stalk my Instagram until one day she responded to a book post I made with a recommendation that I check out some narcissist diagnostic mental health manual.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that spun me into a tizzy, because am I a narcissist guy? I will sit there and I will internalize that and think about shit. At least I used to be. I'm a lot better about it now.
This reminds me of another meme that I should have tracked down to share. It's the, what do you think is, the greatest mindfuck of having gone through narcissistic abuse? Like, it's that whole, like, am I truly the narcissist? Or, like, the person that abused me, was I the one who was actually manipulating them? And then did I research enough on the topic in order to try to appear like I'm not the narcissist so that I could accuse them of being the narcissist? Like, I don't really know. I have to actually sit here and ponder this. Because that's
the mental health rabbit hole goes hard.
Yeah, that's but the honest answer is like, okay, well, if you've been in that kind of situation and you sit there and you're like, well, am I actually the narcissist? You're probably not, because the actual narcissist doesn't sit there and be like, well, like am I a narcissist or am I not a narcissist? Like, how do I tell? Like, they're not a narcissist. Everybody else are the narcissists. So, but I guess, yeah, let's address the elephant in the room. Like, how do
Why you calling me an elephant, bro?
Dude, I'm pretty sure I got at least a good 20-30 pounds on you. So let's so, but how, the elephant in the room, not the physical elephant, metaphor. Okay, how do we know if someone is a narcissist, or how do we know if we have the sign. How do I know? Like, do I have the signs of narcissistic abuse? So I guess I'll just quickly touch on the fact that narcissism. This is just kind of a small segment of that's just one of 3 personality traits that they have with what they call the Dark Triad. These are all traits that we can all fall privy to sometimes. And parts of our personality that a lot of us will kind of try to run and hide from or refuse to admit. But that the term the Dark Triad, this was coined by researchers Delroy L. Pathos and Kevin M. Williams back in 2002. And it would seem no one was talking about these until, of course, TikTok reared its ugly head, and now everybody is, diagnosing everybody else with these. So, but in a nutshell, narcissism, it's defined as a lack of compassion or empathy with a tendency towards selfishness and overinflating one's own importance. The other personality traits, they include Machiavellianism. So this is named after the author of a book that was written ages ago, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. So he was at the time trying to suck up to the political powers of the Medici in Italy. And he wrote things such as okay, well, if your subjects try to rise up against you, you should destroy them in such a way that in such an economically or psychologically devastating way that they would have nightmares at the very thought of ever trying to rise up against you again. So Machiavellianism, this is typified as kind of this control freak, the ends justifies the means, win at all costs kind of mentality. So, and then you have psychopathy. So while lack of empathy can be part of this, like unlike a narcissist who manipulates others to satisfy their own insecurities and feel their own inflated sense of self, like a psychopath actively engages in antisocial and destructive behaviors with no fucks given. So the narcissist is all like me, everybody look at me. I need everybody to feel like I'm the most important person in the world. Like, and a psychopath is just like, well, I'm gonna come and like poop on your carpet and burn your house down. Like, I just don't care. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if anybody likes me. So, but ultimately, on our worst days, everybody can exhibit one of these dark triad personality traits. Sometimes we can just let these slip out during a heated exchange or at any point if we lose emotional control. But knowing which tendency, which one you have a tendency towards, and that is a helpful tool in being able to recognize, like once you start getting out of control, being able to reel it back in a bit. So, having taken that dark triad personality trait, unfortunately, my strongest trait is towards narcissism. Though the test said that my tendency to actually be a narcissist was fairly low, that if I'm triggered, then those are the traits that I'm most likely to exhibit, like acting out and just, quite frankly, being a dick. So, now, have you taken the test at all, or?
Check this out, brother. I took this test because of you. What do you think of those results?
Oh, so yours. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we both got about the kind of similar results. So, although I think psychopathy was the lowest on mine, but yeah, 19% narcissism, 8% Machiavellianism. Yeah, so those are fairly low numbers. So altogether, this says okay, well, you're well, like the test says there, it's like it says you're 18.17% lighter than the average person. So good on you. You're doing gooder than the average person as far as those dark triad personality traits. So, but like the old phrase there, hurt people. So I think a lot of those dark triad traits, they can manifest in the kind of abuse that they might have experienced. To narcissists, Yeah, narcissists, they tend to manipulate. Psychopaths, they can be violent, impulsive, and aggressive. Like Machiavellians are controlling. It's probably because, a result of trauma that they probably experienced in early childhood. That's very, that mirrors that. Being manipulated.
So here's my question for you. If 2017 Jeff or Bishop were to go and to take that test, what do you think the results would look like?
Well, I think, I don't know, I kind of had like a little bit of a breakthrough, like end of 2015. So I think 2016 to early 2017, I think narcissism may have been higher on the scale for me. But before that, well, I had an Ayn Rand kick that I was on for a while. So Machiavellianism was probably pretty high through, the late 2000s into the mid 2010s. So, like my apologies, for any of that. It's, I think anybody that's been exposed to Ayn Rand in college, eventually you'll learn about this thing called empathy, and when you know better, you do better.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think the scores would be different. There's many different tests that I've taken over the years in different stages and processes of growth in my life, and I can see the changes in them over the years. And it begs the question for me personally, what would 2017 Bishop's test results be like? I feel like they probably would be higher on some categories. I'm not entirely sure which ones. But I think as you learn and grow, if you were to keep taking this test at different stages in your life, you're going to get different results.
Oh, yeah.
For anybody who is curious about this test, if you follow us on Facebook, I actually included a link to this test, the very one that I took, right there in the description of one of the photos when we were talking about recording this episode. So that link is on the Facebook Mental Flog.
No, but I guess kind of going back to what we were talking about there. Yeah, hurt people. I think there is that element. I think there's also kind of plays into they call the cluster B personality disorders, which they think, okay, that could be, a lot of that's trauma related. There could be chemical imbalances, things like that as well. Don't purport to be like a psychology, like to have a great degree in psychology or anything like that. So this is just, so that I don't know for sure. They might have an actual answer once you go a little bit further down the rabbit hole. But I think basically kind of what I've ascertained is once these dark triad traits tend to become a dominant part of somebody's personality, then that's when they're prone to be diagnosed with one of the cluster B personality disorders. So those include narcissistic, histrionic, antisocial, and borderline personality disorders. So I think histrionics and borderlines, they might not be as prone to narcissistic and antisocial. These ones tend to fall more within the lines of lack of emotional regulation. Yes, histrionics, they're prone to be dramatic. They have these dramatic displays and impulsive behavior. Borderlines, they tend to be typified by a very rigid thought process and a lack of emotional regulation in relation to their stereotypically black or white line of thought. So, they can love you 1 second, but then absolutely hate you once you've done something that triggers them. So then antisocial personality disorder, this is the term that the professionals prefer to use instead of labeling someone as a psychopath now. So, but both this and narcissistic personality disorder revolve around a lack of empathy as their cornerstone, whereas histrionics and borderlines, they can have basic empathy while just lacking emotional regulation. So, but we could probably spend weeks on childhood trauma, schemas, etc., and everything else that comes into play in the development of these traits. But for the sake of brevity, we're going to stay focused on narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder. Is that seems to be the $1 million word everybody's cashing in on. So,
Jeff, are you gaslighting us right now?
like, how do I? Brain fart. Okay, sorry. You kind of threw a penny on the tracks of my mental train and derailed me there for a second. Okay. All right, so here's a test this was designed by someone that was diagnosed as having narcissistic personality disorder. So, and they said this is a surefire way to know somebody's a narcissist. So let's see how you respond to this test here, Bishop. So a woman is at her mother's funeral. While she's there, she meets the man of her dreams. They just instantly hit it off, and they just have this great connection, but she ends up losing his number. So that night she goes home and she murders her sister. Why?
That's a friggin' plot twist. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I'm trying to smell the color 9 right now. I don't get it.
Okay, let me try that again. Okay, so this woman goes to her mom's funeral, meets the man of her dreams there, but ends up losing that dude's phone number.
Okay.
So she decides to go home and kill her sister. Why?
The math doesn't math on this equation for me, sir.
So
I don't get how the loss of the phone number results in the death of a sister.
So I think, yeah, what you're showing there, this is like normal thought processes, normal thinking processes. If we try to get into the head of a narcissist, we might think, well, maybe there's a jealousy thing there or something. So, the test says that only a true narcissist would be able to pick this up right away. So, and the true narcissist answer was, well, if the man knew her mom, there's a good chance that the man knows her sister as well, and he's going to show up to the sister's funeral as well.
Wow.
So apparently, if somebody is a true narcissist, they'll be able to answer that right away.
That's fucked up.
So indeed, but well, congratulations. You failed that test, which means I guess you failed, which means you passed. So
I'm gonna take it on that one.
So good on you. No, but typically, when the thought of narcissism is brought up, the topic of narcissism is brought up, the one manipulation tactic that everybody likes to talk about is gaslighting. So, and gaslighting, of course, is when somebody takes and they twist things to try to make you question your own sanity. So it's the age-old that's not what I said, or no, I was just joking. Quit being so sensitive, or otherwise they're trying to make it seem like your judgment or your recollection is questionable. Try to make you question your own reality. So, other than that, they might want to say someone is a narcissist because they lie a lot. While a narcissist often does tell a lot of lies, but I mean, just because someone tells a lie, that doesn't mean that they're a narcissist. I guess I'll touch at some point on what Plato said about people and why they lie. But going back to ancient Greek philosophy. But we'll cover that later. But let's first go into other tactics that narcissists actually use. So, I mean, if we go down this list here and you can say yep to most of these items, then once again, can't make an official diagnosis, but the shoe is probably pretty close to someone's size. So at the start of the relationship, you're probably going to experience what they call love bombing. Narcissists, they tend to be very charming, very kind of larger than life, and they have a way of being able to like suck people in. So, and then once you're kind of sucked into their orbit, the relationship's going to move stupid fast when they lure you in as quickly as possible. They might butter you up with gifts and, whispering all the sweet nothings into their ear. They might try to say that, they feel like you're their soulmate or something like that. So then your head is going to be spinning with like, wow, this is intense. This is moving fast. This is kind of crazy. But hey, we all like as Morrissey once said, like, I am human and I need to be loved just like everyone else does. So most of us, like, we just eat it up, especially us dudes. Like, you give a dude a compliment, like, he'll hold on to that for the rest of his life, because most of us dudes don't get compliments. So like any kind of like positive attention, it's like you become like butter in a freaking microwave.
Oh yeah, I mean, getting love bomb has to feel friggin' amazing.
Yeah, and that's part of like what kind of messes with your head, because as you're trying to recover from that, you're like, well, there was these parts of the relationship that were awesome. Like, and I'd really love to feel that again. But the problem is that like all the awesome parts were all completely fake. So, I mean, they'll. So when they, sorry, another brain fart. But yeah, so they do all of this. They butter you up. And now you're kind of like in that infatuation, starry-eyed mode. And then one day, somehow, some way, you did something wrong. And they lose their shit on you. You are now the worst person in the world. And there's just nothing but bile and hatred that's pouring out of their mouth. They're just cutting you down every which way that they can. And they do this because, the relationship, it's what happens in your brain. This is no different than being on a potent drug. So, they come on strong and they give you this huge dose of oxytocin and dopamine. And this actually, like most like psychoactive drugs, this is how they work, is by flooding your system with dopamine in particular. I know that's like methamphetamine. That's how that works, is that like it just floods your system with dopamine. That's the reward chemical. So, it kind of tricks your brain into having that like that instant gratification. But
yeah, the same one that we get from eating cheese.
Yeah, but the thing with eating cheese is that there does come a point of diminishing returns. I can tell you about a trip that I made to Washington with some friends back in the day. And I'm the kind of person that if I'm going on a trip somewhere, like I don't if someone says, yeah, let's go eat at Denny's, like I'm gonna probably slap them across the face with a trout. We're like, okay, we're in a new place, new location or whatnot. Like, why go like experience the same crap we could experience at home, or eat somewhere we could eat at home? So I'm like, we gotta find someplace new, like to see, go where the locals are going. So we found this place. It's called Dirty Dave's Gay 90s Pizza Bar.
That's quite the name.
Yeah, now you're probably thinking the same thing that we were at the time. We expected, okay, we're going to go to this place. It's probably going to be like dudes in short shorts roller skating the pizza up to us with like posters of Luke Perry or whoever hanging on the wall. It's like they might have like, "What is love? Oh baby, don't hurt me," playing or whatnot. But no, they're talking 1890s, which was labeled the gay 90s because apparently it was this great time of like progress and innovation and stuff like that after the nation was recovering from the Civil War and crap. So yeah, I guess a little bit of a disappointment there when we showed up, and we're just like, okay, I guess it's not as weird as we were expecting. We signed up for weird. This isn't really weird, but they had a pizza with 5 pounds of cheese on it. It was like,
that sounds like the stress.
That thick of cheese. And we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And then the next night, my aunt lived in the area. We're like, okay, we're going to go visit my aunt. She's like, yeah, awesome. Like, I'll cook for you. Like, what does she decide to make? A cheese fondue. I guess, economist terms here, we're talking about, diminishing returns. There is a such thing as too much cheese. Like none of us could eat dairy for like a month after that trip.
I bet.
So, but yeah, like dopamine. So it's the way that they treat you, like when the love bombing process, it floods your system with dopamine. It's like taking meth or heroin, and so you get that bliss, and then they suddenly take that away. It's like it's literally the same thing as going through withdrawals from one of those powerful drugs. So, but they know that they've got you hooked, and they know that they can do anything that they want because you're going to do anything that you can to get that scrap of their affections. Like, you got to have that high, you got to chase that high. Like, the come down sucks so hard, and you just want to have that fix again. So you're doing all you can to get that high and get that love and attention that they were giving you, but once they see that you're meeting whatever criteria that they said was needed in order to get back in their good graces, now they're going to rely on another tactic. It's called moving the goalposts. Now it's not just going through and like unfriending all the people that they don't like. Now they need like access to like all of your passwords, and they're going to completely like curate your entire life and things like that. And so, and when they're upset, there's usually no warning at all. So you're either going to be subject to what they call the narcissistic rage, or stonewalling, the silent treatment. So, and I guess, when you get it into a disagreement with your partner, typically the goal should be being able to find some kind of middle ground. But these tactics being employed immediately without any warning, it usually shows that the goal is just to try to force you back into line. So it's just immediately shut you down, put you back into line, like no middle ground to be found. So, and then you try to call them on the behavior. And this is when you're going to encounter gaslighting. So trying to make you question your perception. And then they start with the crazy making. So then they try to diagnose you. They try to find ways to make you believe that you're the problem because you have some sort of cognitive dysfunction. They start trying to diagnose you. It's like, well, yeah, maybe you have one of these cluster B personality disorders or something like that. And a lot of times what they're going to be doing is they'll use a tactic that's called projection. So this is, whatever you're being accused of and what you're being made to believe is actually something that they're probably guilty of. And they're trying to shift any blame or suspicion onto you. So don't want to go too much into all of my crap, but I'll use the lying thing as an example of what I lived through. So they emotionally shut you down to the point where you don't feel safe to tell them everything. They'll call you out on everything that you omit and make you feel like you're the worst person in the world for not being completely honest. It's like, oh, well, building up this persona of themselves is being beyond reproach, when in reality, everything about their persona is a fabrication, and they're lying about everything is their entire modus operandi. So, an honest person doesn't have to keep reminding you that you're honest, and a rich person doesn't have to keep reminding everyone how rich you are. So, Truth Social, anyone? So in arguments, they'll infantilize, or basically that's condescending by another word. Treat you like you're an incompetent little child, talk to you like you're 5 years old. So this is a gaslighting technique. They'll treat any complaint like it's no big deal. It's just in your head, or this was just taken the wrong way. Or so they'll either diminish it, or they'll catastrophize, where everything you say is blown up to a ridiculous level. So you can say that you're upset because you don't like how they just flirt with everyone, and they'll respond that since obviously you hate them so much, you think that they're such an awful person that they're just going to go and kill themselves. Or they'll change the topic or deflect. So you can say, I don't like how you took my debit card without permission. And they'll just turn around and say, well, I don't like it when you keep me up all night with your snoring. So, and then God forbid you ever do make a genuine mistake, because then the guilt trips start. And Like, and this, once again, it's all to keep you under control. So like, this is a deflection tactic, but, and it can often come out of nowhere, but it's like, once you screw up at all, that's their ace in the hole. That's a card that they can play anytime, anytime that they want. Just pull it out of nowhere. Like, well, you ate my cheese, so now I'm mad at you, and that kind of begins that whole spiral of, well, now, like, they've withdrawn that affection, like they've taken away that drug, and now I'm going to go through withdrawals, and now I'm squirming to get back into their good graces. So, and you're just vibing, and then they just get upset at you, and they're just like, oh yeah, like, I'm still mad at you because I caught you wiping a booger on the couch 6 months ago. So then, in efforts to make you look crazy, they can employ another tactic. It's called dog whistling. So, and this is, if you've ever heard of the Pavlov's dog experiment, that's, when anytime that was, he trained the dog so that, like, anytime that he'd feed them, he'd ring a bell. So they began to associate the ringing of the bell with being fed. So then, like, and he showed, like, okay, they've gotten used to this. So then he would just ring the bell and not feed them, and they would just stand there salivating. So this is dog whistling, is the narcissist doing this to you. So that whistle, it can be anything like a Ted hilt that they do, or it's just something simple that, some sort of little, like, activator that they can do to get you to go off. So, and then they'll do this. They'll wait until you're in front of others, and then they'll give that head tilt or whatever the dog whistle is. So now you're defensive and you're erratic, and you're doing this in front of others, and they can point out, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. You just saw how they just went crazy. So, and then if they feel that their grasp on you starts slipping, this is, when the tactics that they start using in front of other people, because so when they can no longer control you, they start to control what other people think about you. So then they began engaging in triangulation. So they're going to try to turn third parties against you, and they have a line of defense that they can drag into any arguments to try to put you back into place. So smear campaigns, throwing you under the bus. This would be another common tactic. Playing the victim. So it's maybe an offshoot of projection, because typically they'll accuse you of perpetuating upon them everything that they've done to you. And then eventually they'll just be done with you. And then they'll drop you like you never mattered to begin with. And then, of course, they have someone new lined up right away. That's going to be their new source of manipulation. This is someone they were most likely either grooming or outright cheating on you with. This isn't the end of the story, though. Like, even once they've dropped you, like, even when they've said that they're done with you, they still want you to know exactly who is in control. So this is when they begin a tactic that they call hoovering. So this is when they'll reach out with something seemingly simple as a means to get you, to suck you back in. So, months can go by with no contact, and then one day they'll just message you with, hey, do you remember what the name of that Chinese restaurant that we used to go to was? This is just, something seemingly innocuous to try to, like, suck you back in.
If you block and mute them, you'll literally forget they ever existed. You can get stuck because you keep stalking. Out of sight, out of mind is a real thing.
Yep.
A friend once gave me similar advice about this, about someone who I was hopelessly stuck on. Just because the advice is good does not sadly mean we'll take it. I mean, we both experienced this.
Yeah, we all have to stupidly learn the hard way.
If I had taken this advice, it would have saved months of stupidity. There were two final straws for me. She once commented on a Facebook post that her new boy toy had to console her all night after watching an Avengers movie. After that, I blocked her on Facebook.
Oh, jeez.
Like, one of my friends even called her out, like, I see you, I know what you're doing. Quit doing this shit. Later on, I would start to get notifications that she liked my Instagram posts, only to unlike them right after. So I was getting the notification that, so and so liked your Instagram post. And if you look at it, there's no like there. It was like, oh, that's his. Like, unlike, scroll,
Hoovering.
like, unlike.
Yeah, that's hoovering.
Mm-hmm. I was done giving her attention. It sucked in its own way to fully close that door, but I can tell you I really don't regret it.
But, this is why, when you talk to the professionals, they'll tell you, like, hey, the only kind of peace that you're going to find, the only way that you can win this game is to refuse to play it. And that means you have to go full no contact with this individual. Just, block them and keep them out of your life as much as possible.
It's true.
So, and I mean, just, once again, the tactics that they'll go through, like the hoovering thing. I kind of have my own experience that I'm dealing with that, where it's the, I not giving them any time, any attention, like it blocked them entirely, kind of cut them out of my life. So, they've hoovered relatives and got them sucked in. It like started off with the, this is just, need to know for like medical reasons and stuff like that kind of information. But now it's like I've got like relatives that like I've had to kind of extend that no contact with, because that person started this hoovering tactic and to lock them into kind of an inappropriate dialogue and an inappropriate relationship, where the entire reason for this is to try to trick them into giving them information on me. It's like, you should be smarter than this. So anyhow, enough of my nonsense. So no, but you might have heard of the dance between the narcissist and the codependent. So narcissists, they often target codependents. So how do you know if you might be a potential target for a narcissist? So being codependent, this means that someone places a large part of their identity and their self-esteem on their relationships. So, what better target for a narcissist than someone who can't function or have any kind of sense of identity without them? So here are some warning signs that you might be a codependent. So this is unable to set or keep personal boundaries. Fear of abandonment.
Experienced that before.
An inability to express your needs or your emotions. Taking undue blame, neglecting your own needs to take care of others, approval seeking and fear of rejection, intimacy or communication issues. And because you can't set boundaries or express your needs effectively, there is a tendency towards dishonesty and manipulation to get their needs met. So Plato had, mentioned Plato and his allegory about lies earlier. And so the allegory that he gave is this. It's like, well, why do people lie? It says, well, if a crazy person in a panic rushed up to you and demanded to know where the axe was, of course you're not going to tell them, right? So he theorizes truth is an ugly burden, and most people are begging for a safe place to be able to unload that burden that they carry. So if someone is lying, it's going to be because of fear. So with the narcissist, it's going to be a fear of exposure. With the codependent, it's a fear of rejection. So put that fear at ease with the codependent, and give them that safe space, and you're going to get the truth, because truth is that ugly burden that nobody wants to bear. But not so much with the narcissist.
I used to be able to check a lot of these codependent boxes. I think something that snapped me out of it was when a local semi-well-known individual who had been allegedly dying of terminal brain cancer for about a decade now.
Oh, wow.
Got caught in a lot. He had hit me up, telling me that his bestie, who was coming to see him in California, was suddenly not allowed to stay at his father's condo. In a panic, he asked me to help him secure a place for his friend to stay. I found a hostel nearby, and instead of letting me call and make a reservation, he assured me that I had done enough and asked that I'd send him the money, and he would take care of the rest. I stupidly sent him the money. I was saving for a new car seat for my daughter, and I told him this, and the understanding was that he would pay me back immediately when he got back to Utah.
Let me guess, you never
And
got paid back.
I got like a partial payment because somebody he was interested in called him out on his bullshit, and in order to try to gain favor, he started trying to send me money. But this friend that allegedly couldn't stay at the condo showed up a few months later at a house party I threw. I asked him how California was and how the hostel was. Genuinely confused, he told me that he stayed in the condo and that the mutual friend's father loved him like a son. I did see a
Oh,
lot of pics
jeez.
posted of the two at some expensive tourist locations in California on the Facebook.
Oh,
And
jeez.
yeah, yeah, that was kind of my wake up call of, yeah, this guy really is bullshit, which sucks because a lot of us, I mean, I would take time off to go spend time with him. Like, he's allegedly dying and he was somebody I considered a friend. And yeah, the last time I saw him in person in public, he pretended I didn't exist because how in the hell can you come back from that?
Jeez.
We all eventually hit a wall that forces a change, and if we are learning and growing, uh, you know, we're gonna have to hit that wall. It's amazing how many people hit me up needing no small sums of money after I made my change, never to hit me up again when I said no. A few months ago, someone I hadn't seen in years tried to reach out for that same reason of, hey, I need some money. And I didn't even respond to that message. I call this growth.
Yep. So, but I think kind of what you said there, just I guess kind of another kind of tangent about the difference between there's what they call the overt narcissist and the covert narcissist. So the overt narcissist is going to be that person that's just, they're the greatest things in sliced bread. They're incredibly charismatic, and everybody that they try to draw in, they're just like, like, hey, I'm the greatest, like I'm the shit, like I can do no wrong. Everybody love me, everybody worship me. Covert narcissists can be a little bit harder to find because their thing is, it's what you said earlier about when they can't get good attention, like then any attention will do.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll suck people in by trying to get people to pity them. It's, they'll have like, XYZ disease or something like that. And because of that, then everybody should give them special treatment. Everybody should cater to this, and everybody should give them, preferential treatment. And anybody that isn't going to capitulate to that, like, well, they're just this, insensitive asshole, and like, can't you see that I have like this going on? Like, why would you do this unless you were like some sort of heartless swine? But otherwise, the same, the check boxes for the tactics are going to be the same. It's just that's really kind of overt versus covert narcissist, how to tell the difference between the two. So, but I think, once again, I should reiterate, like somebody doesn't have to be a narcissist or have a cluster B personality disorder to be a deliberate abuser. So, and early childhood trauma, a chemical imbalance may be at the root of either, either way, but at least, maybe we now have a better grasp on narcissism. So I guess now, how do you tell if somebody's been the victim of narcissistic abuse? Because somebody who's trapped in that cycle, they're not gonna be like, hey, like I'm stuck, in this cycle with like this person who's abusing me. So it's like, okay, well, how do you tell if somebody might be experiencing this and is trying to hide this or trying to play things off like everything's okay. So first sign is going to be their physical health is visibly deteriorating. So you can physically see the life getting sucked out of a person. So with this, they're going to be under an intense amount of stress. This is going to make them more prone to illnesses, and it will physically age that person. So second one, their mental health is going to be deteriorating. They start, well, like the diagnosis that I was given. It's like they're gonna pick up anxiety, depression, and signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. They start having issues regulating their emotions, so they might be prone to bouts of complete withdrawal, social isolation, or that one and whatnot, or they might have outbursts and breakdowns. So then a withdrawal from family and friends, feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, problems forgiving themselves, and trust issue. Then they start to lose their sense of identity, like anything that used to be their thing that made them happy or whatnot. Like they no longer have that. And then of course they start to show like an inability to be able to set or enforce any kind of boundaries. So if someone is exhibiting these signs, so it might be time to reach out. So you may ask why someone would stay in this kind of situation, but keep in mind that actual victims would typically be isolated from their friends and family and finances. So when the narcissist is all you really have, then who do you turn to for help? Especially, when doing so is often going to require losing everything, including your identity. So in my own journey, like I was only able to crawl back with a tremendous amount of both emotional and financial support from friends and family. So, sometimes that path to recovery for someone is just being able to offer a couch to somebody for a few days, or but I guess one way or another, like people make sure that you're checking in on your friends. So someone said to me, like after the fallout, the biggest way that they could tell that something was wrong is that they came to see me as this just big person. When they say big person, they mean like just both physically and personality wise. It's like you're just this big person. You're just this whole when you're in the room, you're gonna notice. So they said, so with you being such a big person, when I started to see you become smaller and smaller, that's when I knew something was. So sadly, this kind of emotional abuse, it affects both men and women equally. But when you look at what resources exist out there, there's just really nothing out there. Like a lot of these resources, they're going to be available for women. And this is not to try to denigrate their experience or things like that. We need these resources out there. Just saying that, like, with what's out there, it just kind of seems like the dialogue seems to be one-sided. Like, dudes don't experience this. So, and
dudes are really bad about talking about it and asking for help.
Well, true. This once again is the whole like, hey, guys, check in on your friends, because like the biggest, like, hey, everybody has their lies that they tell, and the biggest lies that dudes tell is, yeah, I'm fine. But ultimately, with this lack of resources out there for dudes, dudes need their bros. So oftentimes that's the only support that's available to them. So there's the book, one of the classics, No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert A. Glover. This is a classic for men in overcoming codependency or nice guy syndrome, as he calls it. So this book places a lot of weight on the importance of men having solid support networks amongst their friends, and having having it to where your partner is not your only means of emotional support, because that's not a good place for any need to be in. As he kind of illustrates, you see like these couples that they're married for 40, 50, 60 years. Like the dude passes away first, like the woman, she keeps on living. She'll go on like, until her 80s, 90s or whatever. Might live out the rest of her days as a widow. She might not, but one way or another, like she was with her husband for 40, 50, 60 years. He passed away. She continues on. Like the woman goes first. Like the dude is dead within a couple of years afterwards. It's like, and why is this? Why is that phenomenon? It's like, well, because like what happens to a dude when his like only source of any kind of emotional support that he's had for the past 40, 50, 60 years is now gone. He just deteriorates like instantly. So that's why it's important. Like dudes, you got to have your bros. So I guess something I'll point out just for a more lighthearted look at what it's like trying to recover from narcissistic abuse. There's a movie that came out recently. It's Renfield with Nicolas Cage. So
that's a good flick.
Yeah, you got to be okay with blood and guts. But this movie, it tells the tale of Renfield suddenly realizing that he needs to move on and recover because Dracula is his narcissistic abuser. So it's like, and then of course, I'm gonna the same book that I always recommend, Conscious Loving by Kathleen and Gay Hendricks. This would be for any couples or individuals that are looking to overcome codependency and be able to obtain a higher level relationship. So that, and there are also support groups all over the internet and in person. Pretty much every coffee shop has an overcoming codependency or recovery from narcissistic abuse support group that meets there. So yeah, there is help out there. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an easy road to walk, but walking that road is better than standing still. Off my soapbox.
I think that was a great episode, man. It was very informative, and we covered a lot of ground in it for sure. And guys, this is one that Jeff wrote, and I think he did a great job tonight. So kudos to Jeff.
Yay, I'm useful.
For those of you out there, if you're just learning about us, this is season 2, and we are on Facebook, Mental Flog. We are on YouTube, Mental Flog. And you can find Mental Flog, the podcast, where most major podcast hosts are. If you like it, please like, follow, subscribe, and tell a friend. We are a grassroots podcast. We do not pay for any advertisement. So if you found this, it's either dumb luck or somebody hopefully told you about it, or somehow it showed up in your Facebook feed, but we're glad you're here. And please do, if you have questions, comments, whatever, send us a text, leave us a voicemail, interact with us on Facebook. But our contact number is 801-810-7502. And we'd love it if people interacted with us. We'd love to do another listener question show like we did on the first season. We haven't gotten to do one of those yet. Jeff, any closing thoughts, my friend?
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Well, everyone, thanks for joining us for the podcast. We hope you really got something out of it, and reach out if you have something you want to add to it, or if you have questions.
Well, thank you for listening. Tell all your friends. You get one friend, and they tell a friend, and then they tell two friends. Like, and then you'll get the residuals for like every person that you bring in underneath you, and then eventually, like you won't even have to have any of the product in your garage or anything anymore, because then you can be making enough just off of the residuals that like the people that your downline is just doing all the work for you. It's not a pyramid scheme; it's a triangle of exponential growth.
I feel like you've heard this pitch before, Jeff.
Oh, too many damn times.
All right, everybody. Well, we are going to call that a wrap for this episode. Once again, thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Bishop.
And we will catch all of you guys for the next episode in July.